Hello, Bata and Polo, my public school teachers and fellow public servants. Good morning. This is transparent, ethical, accountable discipline, code of ethics, and administrative liabilities. I'm Kelvin P. Matib, the Attorney 3 of DepEd Antipolo, Legal Unit. So let's start. The why and how formula. What do you know about why and how? So the why, we can answer the why. Because ignorance of the law excuses no one from compliance therewith. So kailangan natin yung how to do this, how to eradicate ignorance of the law. So we have this legal wellness education. So itong inset na ito is it is for our legal wellness education. So that's the how formula. That's why we are here, helping you and capacitating you in all the DepEd rules and regulations, particularly the administrative proceedings, the code of ethics, and its administrative liabilities. Okay? What is administrative discipline? It is a mechanism by which public servants are recognized or made answerable to their acts or omissions while in the exercise of their official function. What to consider? We must also consider due process of law and security of tenure. Hindi pwedeng basta-basta tayo natatanggal sa serbisyo or sa trabaho kasi we have that constitutional mandate of security of tenure and due process of law. Okay? So, what are the characteristics of administrative discipline? Number 1, administrative offenses are imprescriptible. Hindi po ito nagpre-prescribe kahit 10 years ago, 20 years ago, as long as you are in the public service. Number 2, administrative cases are not subject to amicable settlement unless provided for by law. Hindi po ito sinisettle. May mga instances na exceptional na pwedeng isettle. And these are light offenses such as purely personal actions and no apparent injury to the government. For example, yung unjust failure to pay just debts. Yun po, pwede pong isettle yun. So, ang by way of practice, sa mga may utang na ating public school teachers, pinapatawag po kayo dito sa legal unit for possible amicable settlement with the creditor. Yun po yung ginagawa dati. At ginagawa din natin ngayon. Okay? So, as a rule, administrative cases are not subject to amicable settlement. Okay? So, number 3, the withdrawal of the administrative complaint is not a ground for outright dismissal. Totoo ito. Kung there is an obvious truth or may merito yung complaint, hindi natin basta-basta wini-withdraw or dinidismiss ang administrative complaint. That's why we conduct fact-finding investigation to verify facts and gather facts. Okay? Private complainant is a mere witness to the commission of the offense. Hence, DepEd, through the disciplining authority, can file or initiate the case motu proprio. So, kahit may affidavit of desistance ang complainant, kung there is an obvious truth or merit rule, nakikita ng ating regional director or SDS as the disciplining authority, the administrative complaint can still push through motu proprio. Yung ibig sabihin ng motu proprio, on its own initiative. Okay? So this is under Section 8, DepEd Order number 49, Series of 2006. Itong DO 49 natin, this is the revised administrative rule on our administrative cases in DepEd, in the Department of Education. Okay? So what is the objective in the administrative discipline or administrative investigation or proceedings? Sabi dito sa Remolona versus Civil Service Commission, sometime in August 2, 2001, yan po yung date ng promulgation ng Supreme Court decision. In administrative cases, the object sought is not punishment. Take note, my dear public school teachers, the objective is not for punishment, but for the improvement of the public service and the preservation of public's faith and confidence in our government. Yun po, it is a continuous improvement to better serve our stakeholders and learners and for public service and for the preservation of that constitutional mandate that it is a public office, is a public trust. Okay, so we must preserve the public's faith and confidence in our government. Okay, under Republic Act 4670 or the Magna Carta for public school teachers, the disciplinary jurisdiction over public school teachers is exclusively vested with the Department of Education. This is in accordance with the Fabellana Armand case versus Court of Appeals. So this is our disciplining authorities, our secretary, BP Sara, and our regional director, Attorney Alberto Escobarte, and our schools division superintendent, Sir Christopher R. Diaz. For the secretary, he can be the disciplining authority over all teaching and non-teaching personnel nationwide in the entire Philippines. Okay, for the regional director, is the disciplining authority over teaching personnel in DepEd Calabarzon and non-teaching personnel in the regional office. For our SDS, Sir Chris, he is the disciplining authority over non-teaching personnel in the division office. Okay? So malinaw po yan, ang disciplining authority natin. So this is the administrative due process, 1 to 5. So Number 1, there must be a complaint, a formal complaint. Hindi po tayo nag-i-investigate kung wala tayong na-receive na formal complaint, either anonymous, email complaint, or notarized complaint. Okay? So number 2, there must be investigation to be conducted. Okay? After investigation, we must consider these aspects, 2 aspects, the procedural due process and the substantive due process. In the procedural due process, we refer this as the method or manner by which the law is enforced. It is the procedure which hears before it condemns. So you have the opportunity to answer, and you have the opportunity to explain and be heard. Okay? So yung substantive due process, this requires that the law itself, not merely the procedures by which the law would be enforced, is fair, reasonable, and just. Yan po, it must be fair, reasonable, and just. The decision must be fair, reasonable, and just. Okay? So after that proceeding, formal investigation, or the fact-finding investigation, makikita dyan kung the administrative complaint can be dismissed for lack of merit. Kung may prima facie case, mafo-formal charge ang teacher or non-teaching personnel. So pag na-formal charge yan, tutuloy yung kaso sa formal investigation proceedings. So, ito na yung decision. Yung decision must be fair, reasonable, and just. Yung decision can either be not guilty of the charge against you or guilty of the charge against you. If guilty, you will be imposed sanctions. So, yung sanctions din is based on DO 49 series of 2006. Okay, malinaw po ang ating administrative due process. So, classifications of offenses and examples. Ito lang is grave, less grave, and light. So, don't you worry about this kasi sa formal charge may state naman kung grave offense ba yun or less grave or light offense. So, ang example ng ating light offense, yun po yung hindi pagbabayad ng utang ng ating mga public school teachers, and this is the most common offenses in DepEd Antipolo. So sa mga teachers po na may utang dyan, beke naman, pwede na po kayong magbayad ng inyong mga utang. Okay? So administrative liability per DepEd Order number 49 series of 2006 2006 and the Civil Service Rules. Ito po yung 2017 RACS or the Revised Rules on Administrative Cases in Civil Service. So take note that ang ating administrative procedure in DepEd is 2006 pa siya. Pero ang Civil Service Rules 2017 na. Okay? So pwede po natin gamitin both of them. So administrative liability per DepEd Order 49 series of 2006. Ito po yung mga penalties for grave offenses. Dismissal from service except hindi po kayo ma-dismiss kasi may exception. Ito po yung exception. Usually, ang regional director or SDS applies the principle of substantive and compassionate justice as long as you pray for that, as long as you seek for that mitigating circumstance. Kailangan sabihin nyo din sa inyong answer or pleadings na patawarin nyo kami at kami ay nagkamali. We admit our omissions and acts and omissions violative of DepEd rules and regulations. Baka naman po pwede nating i-apply yung substantive and compassionate justice, such as, for example, breadwinner of the family. Kayo lang pong nagtatrabaho sa inyong pamilya. Pwede din po yun. And the length of service, 30 years in service, 35 in service, retirable na po, pwede din po yan. So this will lessen or mitigate the penalty of dismissal. Okay? O, pwede din yung first offense. Yung, hindi po siya habitual offense. Okay? And it must be, as I said a while ago, it must be properly invoked in the pleading, such as in your answer, comment, or reply, or your position paper. Okay? So penalties for less grave offenses. The first offense is 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. For the second offense, you have given the opportunity to reform and yet you did not reform. So dismissal from service na po ang second offense. Okay? So penalties for light offenses. First offense is reprimand, warning, and admonition. The second offense, suspension for up to 30 days. And for the third offense, dismissal from service. This usually applies in willful failure to pay just debts. Okay? So penalties for less grave offenses. First offense, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. Second offense, dismissal from service. So these are the common complaints. Number 1 is dishonesty. It is a disposition to lie, cheat, and steal. It has the intention to violate the truth or misrepresent or defraud others. Okay? Examples are stealing government property or corruption, cheating in principal's test. Meron pa bang gumagawa nito? Fraudulent reimbursements or malversation of funds, false information in applications for promotion and in applications in the government service, erroneous entry in statement of assets and liabilities and net worth, false entries in Form 48 or your DTR, Form 6 and 7 or your leave and clearances, Forms 212 or your PDS, personal data sheet. And note that we must be vigilant in acting as guarantor. This is in cases of willful failure to pay just debts. Do not act as guarantor kung yung kilala mong ginagarantor mo hindi naman siya magbabayad kasi ikaw po ang magbabayad nun because you guarantee na dapat siya ay magbayad pero hindi siya nagbayad, so ikaw ang magbabayad ng kanyang utang. Okay? So falsification of public documents. Be very careful with this because this is a grave offense. So fake payslips, this is also a grave offense. Dishonesty and payslips for sale. So note for our school heads and our master teachers, kung may nagre-request ng payslips, wag naman nating pagbayarin. So libre po ang pag-request ng payslips sa Department of Education. Isang papel lang naman po yan. Huwag nating gawing negosyo ang pagbibigay ng payslips amounting to 10 pesos or 20 pesos each. Okay? So common complaints again, gross neglect of duty. There is death or injury suffered by a learner inside the school or during school sanctioned activity. Itong school sanctioned activity, it can either be inside or outside the school as long as it is a school sanctioned activity. So loss or destruction of government property. Note that it must be unjustifiable, unreasonable delay in frontline services. Ito po yung bago ngayon, yung ease of doing business na sinasabi na may 3 days, 7 days, 20 days to close and terminate the services in frontline services. Okay? So take note of that duration or period kasi stricto po ang ating ARTA ngayon. So pag lumagpas ka dyan sa days na yan, ikaw ay makasuhan ng gross neglect of duty. Okay? So conduct prejudicial to the best interest of service. Ang element po nito, makikita dito is it taints the image or integrity of the office or the Department of Education. It need not be related to your official functions. So, pwede po kayong makasuhan dito. It's like posting in social media, your conduct outside the school, in the community, as long as it taints the image or integrity of the Department of Education or the integrity of you as a public school teacher. Pwede po kayong makasuhan ng conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. This is also the catch-all provision whenever the disciplining authority cannot determine the specific offense to be charged. So, pwede po ito kung hindi po misconduct, wala yung elements ng misconduct, pwede pong itong alternative na offense. So, conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. So ito, yung pangungutang na sinasabi ko na very common sa DepEd Antipolo. Hindi lang naman sa DepEd Antipolo ito. So nationwide din ito. So sa hirap ng buhay, kailangan mangutang. Di po ba? So willful, take note of the word willful, refusal to pay just debts. Pag may court order na under the small claims court, pwede po yung gamitin ng disciplining authority to file a case against you. Kasi, and if you already admit that you are indebted to your creditor, pwede din po yung ground na pwede ka nang ma-formal charge for willful failure to pay just debts. Take note na yung word ay willful, kailangan there must be a demand to pay. Despite repeated demands by the creditor that you pay, you failed to pay, hindi ka nag-installment, and you never heed the demand of the creditor, that is willful refusal to pay just debts. Okay? So take note, there must be a demand letter. Oral, verbal, or written demand by the creditor before there will be a willful refusal to pay just debts. Okay? So disgraceful and immoral conduct, isa din yan. So this is, I think this is self-explanatory. Lahat naman po tayo ay professionals and matured enough to know this one. Okay? So before entry to the government service or after entering and you did this, pwede ka ding makasuhan dito na disgraceful and immoral conduct. Okay? So be a role model to our learners and to the community. So serve as an example to learners and act as second parents. You adhere to the standards of morality and decency. So you must be role model in official and personal conduct. This is in accordance with the Supreme Court decision in Santos versus NLRC, March 6, 1998. So take note that children are great imitators, so give them something great to imitate. Okay? So nepotism, isa din yan. So the appointing, recommending, the chief, the supervisory authority is a family or relative of the one to be appointed within the third degree of consanguinity or affinity. This is This is a Supreme Court decision, the Civil Service Commission versus the Koy Koy in 1999, wherein a textbook admin appoints his sons as driver and security guard in the school. So bawal po yun kasi his sons are within the third degree of consanguinity. So bawal po yan. So you are the appointing, recommending the chief or the supervisor. Bawal po yan na ikaw ay under mo ang iyong anak, ikaw mag-appoint sa inyong anak, i-recommend mo yung inyong anak in the government service. But there are exceptions. Don't you worry. Ito po yun. Exemptions. Confidential employees or the teachers or the public school teachers, hindi po kayo covered ng nepotism. So yung mga non-teaching ang covered po niyan. So physicians and the members of the armed forces of the Philippines, provided that there is full report of such appointment to the Civil Service Commission. Okay? Kasi ang nepotism, nakikita ng mga ibang employees yan. So it affects also morale and productivity. And it has some negative effects in the government service. So makikita din naman natin ang effects ng nepotism. Obvious, di po ba? Okay? So common complaints, ito po, grave misconduct. These are the elements of grave misconduct. There must be corruption, clear intent to violate the law or DepEd rules and regulations, flagrant disregards of established rules and regulations in the department and in the civil service as a whole. So examples are graft and corrupt practices, no liquidation report on the school MOOE or the misuse of school funds, school-based feeding program, or the use of school supplies, child abuse or sexual abuse. This is prioritized by our BP Sara. Top priority. Itong child abuse and sexual abuse or sexual harassment in the Department of Education. So there is a must-read decision on the case of grave misconduct. This is the case of Jeffrey M. Aninag case. Ito ay makikita nyo ito sa internet. You just browse it and search it. Jeffrey M. Aninag case. So this case emanates from I think it's a division of Valenzuela City in the NCR, wherein he was charged with child abuse, sexual abuse. So pinatawan siya ng regional director ng 1 month and 1 day o until 6 months na suspension, pero hindi siya tumigil. Hindi niya tinanggap yung decision ng regional director. So inapela niya sa Office of the Secretary. So anong ginawa ni Office of the Secretary? Nakita niya masyadong mabait si regional director. Kita niya na pinataw niya ang 1 month and to 6 months suspension. So sinabi niya na this is a grave offense. So dapat ang sanction nito is dismissal from service. So ayun, ang ating secretary, dinismiss niya si Sir Jeffrey Aninag from service. So ito, hindi nagpatalo ulit si Sir Jeffrey Aninag. Pumunta ulit sa civil service, so by way of appeal. So ang civil service, sabi niya, tama ang secretary in imposing the ultimate penalty of dismissal from service because this is a grave offense, child abuse, much more na sexual abuse ito. So tama. So ina-affirm niya yung dismissal from service. So lesson learned, kung kayo ay nakasuhan at inimpose kayo ng mere suspension, wag na po kayong umapela kasi most likely pag na-review yan sa taas, baka ma-overturn yung suspension and maging dismissal from service ang inyong penalty. Okay? So, let's common complaints again. Sabi nga ni Secretary Liling dati, public service is about suffering financially, physically and psychologically. So kudos to our public school teachers because they are suffering. So yung suffering na yun, na term na suffering, it is indeed a blessing to be suffering for our learners. Di po ba? So ito, common complaints, inefficient and incompetent performance of official duties. Pwede kayong makasuhan yan, tutulog-tulog kayo sa pansitan or sa inyong office. Hindi na po kayo productive or incompetent na kayo in performing your official functions and duties. Frequent unauthorized absences or awol ka for at least 30 days without leave or approved leave, or you're engaging in habitual tardiness. So, pwede ka ding makasuhan dyan. So, refusal to perform an official duty. Pag designate ka ng school head, tapos sabi mo, you will not heed on that designation, pwede ka makasuhan ng insubordination. Kasi that is a lawful order or lawful school memo designating you to perform additional duties. Okay? So, take note also that your designation or additional performance of functions must be in the exigency of public service. Yan po. Okay? So, common complaints, again, the keyboard warriors sa ating social media or internet. Pwede kayong malibel, makasuhan ng libel under Republic Act number 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. In libel can either oral or in written form. So usually kasi ang libel is puro para mas believable and there is an evidentiary weight, it must be in written form. Okay? Kasi kung oral, wala kang testimony, walang nakarinig yung sinabi niyang defamatory statement. Mahirap yon na i-prove. So, mas maganda yung written form. So, marami po sa online world, yung mga keyboard warriors natin. So, recognition of respect, of freedom of expression. Ito po yung laging naaabusong right under our Philippine Constitution. So, this exercise of freedom of expression is, as a rule, is absolute, but it is limited because your freedom of expression must not violate the right of another. So, ibang usapan na po kung ine-exercise mo yung freedom of expression mo nga, pero may nasasagasaan kang right ng ibang tao. So, yun po yun. So, take note, your freedom of expression is limited when you exercise such right in violation or in prejudicial to the right of another person. Okay? Cybercrimes, violation of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of electronic data, illegal access or misuse of data without legal right, or identity theft, libelous statements in relation to Article 355 of the Revised Penal Code, or aiding or abating cybercrimes. So, ito po ang common sa Department of Education, yung illegal access or misuse of data without legal right or authority. You are not authorized to access or use that data. So, identity theft, libelous statement, meron din yan, marami po yan. So, libelous, the famous PI word of our former President Duterte. No po ang sagot, yes or no? No. This is just a common expletive or utterance or expression of anger, disgust, or displeasure. So, kahit sinabi mong PI, that is not libelous. So, this rule is under the Supreme Court decision in Pader versus People. This is February 8, 2000. So, yung mga pwedeng mag-research dyan, pwede nyong i-research itong Pader versus People para may additional knowledge po kayo and information regarding this famous PI word. Okay? So, ito. A teacher posted in social media that his co-teacher was either suspended or dismissed from service due to sexual harassment when in fact and in truth, no case was filed against said teacher. Yes or no? Yes na po ito kasi the statement is false and defamatory. There is already an imputation of a crime when in fact there was no crime. So that is a libelous statement. Okay? Penalty for cybercrime. In criminal case, yan po ang imprisonment, prison mayor. This range from 6 years to 12 years. So, or fine amounting to 200,000 to 1 million commensurate to the offense committed. In administrative cases, here in DepEd, this is misconduct. It can be either simple or grave depending po sa this is a case-to-case basis. So pag simple misconduct yan, ang sanction yan is 1 month and 1 day to 6 months or 6 months and 1 day to 1 year. Pag grave misconduct yan, dismissal from service. Okay? So ito po, common complaints dito, collection of fees, whether authorized or voluntary. Usong-uso po ito nung Oplan Balik Eskwela. Ang dami pong nagba-violate na ating school head. So it's not only school head but classroom advisors doing this. Diba? We have a no collection policy in DepEd. So it is stressed that in no case shall non-payment of voluntary school contributions or membership fee shall be made as a basis of admission, non-promotion, or non-issuance of clearance to student by the school concerned. Ano po ba yung mga voluntary school contributions such as these are the BSP, GSP, anti-TB fund, yan yung mga yon, or PTA fees. Yon, yung PTA fees, dapat yan ay it must be through a board resolution approved by the PTA. Hindi ka pwedeng mangolekta din ng PTA fees kung walang board resolution. It must be in a proper form. Okay? So ito, mahilig dati ang ating mga schools o hindi ko alam kung hanggang ngayon nagpapakandak sila ng Mr. and Miss United Nations, mga ganyan, yung mga fundraising activities na Miss and Mr. So, yung mga sale of tickets, bawal po yan. It is absolutely prohibited. So, we highly encourage the school heads and the school personnel to engage in this collection. So, yung mga field trip, wala naman pong nag-field trip ngayon kasi tinigil po yan nung simula nung Tanay incident sa Rizal. May nag-field trip na marami po tayong estudyante na nadisgrasya. So yung field trip na yan tinigil po muna. May moratorium in-issue ang ating DepEd Secretary last time. So hanggang ngayon wala pa po field trip. Okay? So sa atin, sa DepEd Antipolo, may in-issue po tayo during the Balik Eskwela. Reiteration of DepEd rules and regulations for the safe and stress-free Balik Eskwela SY 2022-2023. Ito po yung mga requiring public school teachers or school personnel to collect PTA fees and other monetary contributions is absolutely prohibited. Ito po yung sinasabi kong authorized voluntary collection. Ito pong PSP, GSP, TB, PTA, among others. So, implementation of canteen trays or the tray system, it is absolutely prohibited. Why? Because you are forcing the teachers to sell and forcing the learners to buy. So that is absolutely prohibited. So proper school attire and decorum should reflect and respect for the school as an educational institution. So yung proper school attire and decorum natin, kung gusto ng estudyante na talagang mag cross-dress or mag long hair para sa mga lalaki, ang ginagawa dyan is you seek the written consent, parental consent of the parent concerned para in the long run kung may magreklamo, may ebidensya tayo na pinayagan naman ng teacher. Pinayagan naman ng parent or guardian na mag-cross-dress siya or magsuot siya ng ganong attire. Pero ang bottom line dyan, yung attire dapat, it must respect the school as an educational institution. Hindi naman po pwede na papasok yung estudyante sa school natin na naka-leggings, naka-short, o kaya ano ba yon, crop top, mga yan. Hindi po pwede yon. That is not a proper school attire. Okay? And for our public school teachers na nag-cross-dress, pwede din yan. That is an exercise of a right by our school teachers, as long as they also respect the school as an educational institution, and it must be a proper school attire. Di po ba? Okay? Yung school attire pa rin, yung ang gagamitin. Kung yung school attire ng pambabae, gusto nyo mag-school attire ng pambabae, pwede yun as a member of the LGBTQ+. Okay? Pero sa ating learners, you must seek the written parental consent of the parents or guardian before they are allowed to cross-dress or in their school attires and decorum. Okay? Malinaw po yan. Okay? So, common complaints in school canteen funds, mismanagement, the selling of junk foods. May DepEd order po tayo dito, yung mga color coding category of foods to be sold in our school canteens. So, non-observance of the distribution of canteen funds to fund holders. May mga percentage po yan na share of proceeds, di po ba? So, kailangan nafa-follow po yun, yung sharing of net proceeds of the school canteen funds. So, it must also be properly liquidated. Transparent, ethical, and accountable governance nga po tayo. Di po ba? Okay, ito po, common complaints din, misconduct, gross misconduct or simple misconduct in violation of our DepEd child protection policy. So, we will not touch on this matter because this is a separate topic. Meron po akong naihandang recording dito regarding child protection policy. So, as long as you know the DepEd rules and regulations, wala pong problema. And you follow the guidelines. May bago po tayong guidelines ng DepEd Calabarzon. Okay? So, failure to take appropriate action in child abuse or bullying incidents can be a gross or simple neglect of duty. So, watch out on this. Okay? So, we have also, the DepEd Antipolo has also issued this conduct of orientation and dissemination of the guidelines. Ito yung bagong guidelines natin on express system of reporting and intervention of child abuse and bullying incidents in DepEd Calabarzon. This is Regional Memo number 217, series of 2021. So, I highly encourage all the public school teachers, school personnel, most especially the school head and the guidance coordinator or the registered guidance counselor to read this regional memorandum. Okay? So, violation of the confidentiality rule in child abuse and bullying cases. Unauthorized disclosure of documents or identities of the parties involved. So, look out po sa mga Marites and Marisol po dyan. There is a violation of the confidentiality rule in child abuse and bullying cases. Okay? So, pwede po kayong makasuhan ng misconduct or neglect of duty. So, ang ginagawa po during these proceedings, blina-blot out po namin o sinasabi namin yung pangalan ng bata as AAA or BBB. Blotting out or redacting the names and other sensitive information. So, this is for the preservation of the confidentiality rule. Okay? So, accessory penalties. Itong accessory penalties are automatic when the penalty is dismissal from service. So, ano po ba ang mga ito? Cancellation of the civil service eligibility, forfeiture of retirement benefits, disqualification for reinstatement or reemployment to the public service, disqualification for promotion, bar from taking any civil service exam. So, ito po, automatic po siya when the dismissal when the penalty is dismissal from service. And take note also na dapat nakasad ito sa written decision mismo ng disciplining authority. Ito po yung nasa wherefore clause, nakalagay ito that there will be an accessory penalty imposed aside from the penalty of dismissal from service. Okay? Ito po, Code of Ethics and our ethical standards in the government service. What is the policy of the state? It shall promote the high standards of ethics in public service. Public officials, employees shall at all times, alam niyo po, at all times be accountable to the people. At all times be responsible, have a responsibility, integrity, and competence, and loyalty, and act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. Uphold the public interest over your personal interest. So my latest DepEd order po tayo dito is DO 49 series of 2022. Ito po yung promotion of professionalisms in the Department of Education. Naka-enumerate po dyan yung mga do's and don'ts natin as a employee of the Department of Education. So please read this DepEd Order 49 kasi lahat tayo are enjoined to comply with this DepEd order. Okay? So norms of conduct, commitment to public interest, professionalism in our dealings inside and outside the school, justness and sincerity, political neutrality, responsiveness to the public, nationalism and patriotism, commitment to democracy, and simple living. Ito po yung to lead modest lives. Huwag po tayong ipapakita sa social media or to the community na magarbong pamumuhay. Kasi pwede po kayong lifestyle check dyan. Kasi kung SG, halimbawa lang ito, kung SG 6 ka, you are a utility or security guard, tapos may Ferrari ka, tulad ng incident doon sa Bureau of Customs na security guard may Ferrari. Paano siya makabili ng Ferrari kung yung source of income lang niya is yung compensation lang niya as a security guard? Diba ba? Nakakamangha po yun na ang security guard ay may Ferrari or mga luxury cars. Diba? Okay, so are you a bot like them? For me, public school teachers are heroes. Kasi kung wala po ang public school teachers, hindi po ako abogado ngayon. Di ba? Hindi po tayo professional ngayon kung wala tayong public school teachers as our heroes. So, are you a bot like them? Pag dinesignate ka ng inyong yes or no muna, yung mga may mag-yes dyan o mag-no-no, are you a bot like them? Batwoman or Batman? Pag dinedesignate ka ng inyong immediate supervisor or your school head in your ancillary jobs or functions, add-ons, tapos sabi mo, ba't ako na naman? Ba't hindi siya ang didesignate? Diba? So, pag ganun ba ang sinasabi mo, nagiging bat ka na. Diba? Batwoman at Batman. So, wag po tayong maging bat. Our right attitude must be like the Spider-Man that when we are designated, it brings with great responsibility comes, with great power comes great responsibility. Di po ba? We must accept it. That is a challenge for us to accept designation or additional jobs aside from our regular job functions in our KRA, di ba? So do not be a bot. Ang mas magandang tanong dyan is what can I do for you? Yun. Hindi yung why me? Ba't ako? Yung ganun dapat, what can I do? Yun, di ba? So top priorities of our Office of the Secretary, reiterated by our Regional Director. This is child abuse and sexual harassment cases. For us, we have weekly reporting, compliance with the Regional Memorandum 217 series of 2021. This is a top priority above all others. So inuuna po namin ang mga incidents of child abuse and sexual harassment cases. So number 2 is school sites survey and titling. This is the acquisition of school sites or the transfer of ownership from private entities or the LGU to the school or to the Department of Education. Okay? As a rule, ito po, SDS po ang signatory dapat sa deed of donation or deed of sale. And before that, before mag-sign ang SDS, ina-applyan po yan ng special power of attorney. Mag-i-issue po niyan is ang ating secretary, authorizing the SDS to sign the document. So, in practice, ang nakikita ko dito, ang dami nating deed of donation signed by our school heads. And that should not be. Kasi kailangan pa nating i-confirm yon or i-ratify ng Office of the Secretary, yung ating signature. So it is taxing on our part to apply for that confirmation. May attachment po yan, such as the TCT, tax declarations, the survey plan, tax clearances, and other documents. So, the proposed execution of perpetual usufruct, pwede din po itong alternative in acquiring or ownership. Kung ayaw ng LGU na i-donate, pwede naman po tayong mag-execute ng perpetual usufruct. And take note, ang signatory nga po dito is ang SDS. Hindi po ang school head. Okay? So we have funds to use in transfer of ownership of school sites. May utilization of the school educational fund, or we can request funds from the central office under the General Appropriations Acts of 2023. I believe ang capital outlay ngayon ng DepEd is 65 million. MOOE niya is at least 30 million or something. So marami po tayong pondo. Ang problema dyan, yung documentation natin. So I highly encourage the school heads or the focal persons designated here in school sites na kumpletuhin po ang documentation. Okay? So indeed, our issues and concerns can be resolved through a cup of technical, transparent, ethical, accountable governance. This is the T governance. So it can be resolved through a cup of tea governance, yung ating issues and concerns. Okay? Thus, this cup of tea is meant to be shared pursuant to the principle of shared governance and responsibility under Republic Act 9155. So every teacher, personnel has a particular role, authority, responsibility, and accountability in ensuring DepEd's mission and vision. Okay? So everyone's concern is that para sa bata, it takes a village to raise a child. This is an African proverb. So thus, this means that we must excel more in terms of teaching, role modeling, understanding, and loving as God has first loved us. So we must excel more. Continuous improvement, CI. But may CI din tayo, di ba? Excel more. So sabi dito na ating eskwela, thank you dear teachers. So kapit-bisig tayo sa kapakanan ng ating learners. So the biggest and greatest sea is Christ alone. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, sabi dito, the Lord urges you to do more and more. So there is more to be done. So it is a collective and cooperative effort for us to excel in our profession. To continuously improve ourselves to better serve our learners and stakeholders. Because by serving them, we are serving the Lord, our God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you and God bless. So please like my YouTube channel. Naumpisan ko po ito last pandemic, pero konti lang po ang na-upload ko, recording. Depende po sa availability ng ating oras na mag-prepare ng slides and mag-upload ng lecture video recordings for our public school teachers. Ito po ang aking YouTube channel, The Notorious Teacher and the Curious Learner. So please like and share. Okay, thank you very much and God bless.